The U.S. Department of Defense has carried out several so-called freedom of navigation operations by closely flying or sailing past the South China Sea islands.
This operation challenged attempts by China and Vietnam to restrict navigational rights around the features they claim, specifically that these claimants purport to require prior permission or notification of transits through the territorial sea, contrary to international law.
Sounds familiar, right? It is yet another example of the saber-rattling United States deliberately blurring the line between commercial navigation and military operation. Freedom of commercial navigation is guaranteed in the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. In fact, the freedom of navigation in the South China Sea has never been a problem. But the sailing of military vessels does not fall into the category of commercial navigation. It's a different thing. No countries other than the United States have claimed the right for its military vessels to sail at will into the sovereign waters of other nations. The United States has long refused to sign on the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and sending warships to anywhere it wants in the South China Sea explains why. For Washington, the convention is a tool it readily uses to violate the sovereignty of other nations, never a code of conduct for itself.
Second, the United States will continue to protect freedom of navigation and overflight, principles that have ensured security and prosperity in this region for decades.
Again, Washington is attempting to play global sheriff. As a matter of fact, the South China Sea has enjoyed decades of peace and a commercial prosperity. Every year, more than 100,000 ships sail safely and freely through the South China Sea, carrying $5 trillion worth of goods. For China, 60% of the goods coming into and out of the country are shipped through the South China Sea, a vibrant maritime trade route. As such, China cares more than any other country about safeguarding freedom of navigation, which is what China has done over the years. But with its warships sailing at will into the sovereign waters of other nations, the United States is doing just the opposite.